What's going on, Jerome's Minnesota Vikings superstar running back Aaron Jones has been an absolute value pickup for the team this offseason. Coming over from the greasy grimy Green Bay Packers, he's put up numbers and has been worth every single penny of his $7 million contract. And he's been a true talisman on offense, and the offense is much more efficient when he's on the field, right? Because Jones being able to have burst and wiggle in the running game keeps defense honest, as well as keep the Vikings ahead of schedule on the sticks. Instead of second and long, it's second and short. Instead of third and forever, it's third and short. But overall, Jones has been amazing for this team. But he's never been a bell cow running back, and we had said, given his his injury history, as well as his age, you got to parse things out a little bit. But Aaron Jones taken out of the game against the Jets, having a hip issue, expecting to get some more news and updates on that today, as he was due to have an MRI once the Vikings got back stateside. But ideally, you're going to have him back for the Lions game after the bye in 2 weeks. But also, I mean, do they need to add bodies in that running back room? They've been a little bit Spartan there, especially since it has been a mandate this year for Kevin O'Connell to run the football. And it does make sense because it makes life a lot easier for the defense, clock running, sustain a couple of drives, play action is viable for Darnold and company. And the Vikings need to be able to have a competent running game even without Aaron Jones on the field. And Kwesi, got to work those phones, man. I'm not interested in a blockbuster trade. At most, like a late round pick swap or practice squads or signing someone off of the streets, right? And Ty Chandler, I have to say, I'm a big fan of Ty Chandler. I think that he does have all the tools to be a stud running back, but even when he's been given work, like outside of that great drive against the Niners, where eventually Darnold threw an interception, but hasn't really come together. Like, it's come in fits and starts where he has an explosive play and then 4 non-factor plays. Now, he's only averaging 3.5 yards a carry, where Jones is completely ripping the cover off the ball at 4.9. And Chandler's pass protection has gotten better, but it just feels like we need more bodies at the position, because with Jones, even if and when he gets backed, like, you're not going to feel 100% comfortable giving him the bell cow workload, or at least you shouldn't, right? And Chandler is there. CJ Ham picking up some goal line work, as evidence against the Jets, as well as some pass protection in 2-minute drill. It's great. And then you got Myles Gaskin, who's a solid do-it-all veteran running back, but doesn't really move the needle too much, unless you're talking about him returning kicks. Because remember when Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell and Coach Hatt were talking about Gaskin as a kick returner as the best thing since sliced bread, trying to cover up the whole, we just waved King Kenne. Yeah, and Xavier Scott is also on the practice squad. But they got to take a look. All right, so here are 12 running back options for the team, a mix of free agents, trade candidates, as well as players that are on practice squads that could get claimed. Now, number one for me is King Kenne and Nwangwu. So experience with the system, and frankly, it's still shocking that they waived him. And I understand that Jones and Chandler were great, except it's a 17-game season, and Jones has health issues, and he's never been a lead running back. So just makes sense. But obviously knows the playbook, and it could be a situation where, so King Kenne has been on the Jets practice squad ever since he failed his physical with the Saints. It could be a spot where they were protecting him and blocking teams from claiming him until a Vikings week passed, just so he wouldn't go back to the Vikings and leak information about the Jets. But since that game has passed, who knows? Cam Akers, now another former Viking, a guy who knows the system. So it had been expected that Akers was going to re-sign with the Vikings because he had trained all offseason at Training House. He doesn't live here, he has no connection, but staying close to the facility. And even over 4th of July, it had been reported that the Vikings were going to sign him pending a physical. But then he signed with the Texans. And as evidenced by what's happened with the Texans, he's been running back one for a couple games, and it's made sense. But 164 total yards, 2 touchdowns a season. Like, the explosiveness is still there, and he's a solid receiver and a good pass protector. But once the Texans get back Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce, and also it seems like they like the veteran Dario Gugulale a little bit better. He kicks slightly better than Cam Akers. Yeah, so I think that Akers could be expendable, and I think that maybe the Texans, try put him on waivers, try to get him down to the practice squad, or no, he's a vested veteran. He could just be released. One of the two, doesn't matter. But then you got Frank Gore Jr. So I like Gore. I understand why he went undrafted, a little bit undersized for the National Football League, currently on the Bills practice squad, but I liked him, man. Ran for like 328 yards in his bowl game, Shrine Bowl MVP. And beyond the name, I just think that he's a really solid all-around running back who did really well in preseason. Then you got Nick Chubb. Now, before we start this, Nick Chubb, frankly, you could say that he's been one of the top 3 running backs in the league over the last decade. He's been a stud. He's 29, coming off of another severe injury, and coming off the PUP list. And the Browns are having a ton of issues everywhere, so they may just want to unload things. But Kwesi and Andrew Berry, that connection there, that might not be valid anymore because Andrew Berry might be worried about his job, man. So I don't know if they're going to deal him or not. Also, what's interesting is that they've restructured his contract. He's on a league minimum deal. If the Vikings traded for Nick Chubb at the deadline or close to it, it would cost him just over $600,000 in cap. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. But I mean, Nick Chubb would be a lot of fun. Like, could you imagine like a running back by committee room with Nick Chubb as the power back, and then Aaron Jones, and then Ty Chandler as a change of pace? I kind of like it. Dearness Johnson, 2021 Browns fantasy superstar, been with the Jaguars for the last couple of years, but he's the number 3, clearly behind Etienne as well as Tank Bigsby. Then you got Kendrick Miller. Kendrick Miller's interesting. So he's 6 foot 220. He's a house of bricks, the pride of TCU. 3rd round pick in 2023, and Saints head coach Dennis Allen hates him so much. He's on IR, but he's going to be designated for return at some point. So I don't know. Throw a dart. Go ahead. And then Travis Etienne. Now this one is more pie in the sky. Like, the Jaguars are trying to get something going, and yeah, they like Tank Bigsby, but I mean, Etienne's a stud too. A 2021 first rounder back in the day, 322 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. Do you know he had 12 touchdowns last year, and he was number 8 in Offensive Player of the Year voting, which means that the local AP voter from Jacksonville probably voted him as like number 3, but still something. DeWayne McBride, former Vikings 7th round pick, Blazer. It's like King Kene and Cam Akers, knows the playbook, etc. He's chilling out there as a free agent. Then you got Dalvin Cook. I don't know. I like, here's what's like Aaron Jones is older than Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin obviously has a lot more miles on him. But I don't know. Like, I feel like Dalvin has much more burst than he showed for the Jets and the Ravens, and he's currently on the Cowboys practice squad. But I don't know. I don't know, man. Dylan Johnson out of Washington is a guy that I liked. He went undrafted, was with the Titans, and then ended up on the Panthers practice squad. Had 1,195 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns for the Huskies last year. Sort of a solid do-it-all outside zone running back with some size. I kind of like him. Boston Scott, career 16 touchdowns. Mr. Clutch, the pride of Louisiana Tech. Number of years with the Eagles, but yeah. And then Jerick McKinnon. Hey, if you need someone to catch passes out of the backfield and have some solid solid pass blocking, I mean, Jerick McKinnon's your guy. Like, hey, yes, he's 32. Yes, he was a 2014 third-round pick by the Vikings out of Georgia Southern. But hey, he's not. Are you too good? Are you too good for Jerick McKinnon, the original Jet? Like, are you too good for him? Because he's with the Chiefs last couple of years, won a couple of Super Bowls. He wasn't too good for them. Not saying, I'm just saying. But I don't know. Like, right now, the Vikings running back room, it's pretty Spartan, and the Vikings should add a competent body or two just as hedging. Like, even if Jones is back at full throat on week 7 against the Lions, you got to have contingency plans, because this has a chance to be a very special season. And if Jones, who has been a health risk issue throughout his career, like if he gets dinged up in a crucial spot, what's your plan? I like Ty Chandler. I wish he would do better, but you have a chance to enhance this rooster right now at the trade deadline. And yeah, look at interior offensive line. Yeah, look at defensive line. Do that. But little Nick Chubb for a 6th, 7th round pick swap. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. But your thoughts are thoughts. Should the Vikings add running back depth? Yes. Kwesi, get on the horn. Get on it, man. But your thoughts are thoughts. Yeah, you know what to do. Skull, production value.